Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks, wherever you might be. Thank you for joining us. This is the Telerik R3 release webinar, and we are delighted to have you here. We are your usual, hosts, Sam Basu and Ed Charbeneau. How are you, Ed?
I'm doing fine, thanks, Sam. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad either. This is an exciting time. We have, for those of you who, use Telerik and Kende UI, maybe you know the drill, but for those of you who are new, welcome to the family. We do, a couple of big releases every year, and then, service packs in between, but this one's a particularly major release because we have combined a whole bunch of things. But, Ed and me are here to talk about all things, web, mobile, desktop for .NET developers, and, a little bit of document processing here and there. So it's going to be a good time. Those are actually our social handles. So while you do see Ed and me, and we are you're on Twitter, we are on GitHub. While you see and hear us, we stand on the shoulder of giants. We have our engineering teams, our PMs, everybody who's involved in this release, to thank. And we also have a small, army of folks supporting us in the back room. So we'll talk about how you can, ask questions. But let us get started. So, we are all about developer productivity. We are here for your success, so you can, ship your apps faster. You can depend on the tools that you use to, build modern web apps and, mobile and desktop apps. So we actually started last week. We normally try an informal way of, kickstarting the release party. This one was a, a special one because we had gotten together in person after a long, long time at DevReach at a conference that we host, and it was part of Progress 360. So we were all in Boston. So this was actually a really fun live stream. We were able to bring a lot of folks, out in person. We had a little stage. So Ed, did you have fun?
Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun, Sam. Some great speakers were there, and we did a lot of live streams with them as well. It's always great to catch up with people in person.
Absolutely. And so folks, if you want to, connect with us or see what we're up to in between releases, this is a good place for you to kind of come and hang out with us. We are always on Twitch. It's Coded Live is where we stream. But that brings us to this week, which has been, already an amazing week with, 2 webinars already. So just to backpedal a little bit, we started on Monday. This time around, we took a separate webinar just to talk about testing, because there are some really cool things the testing team has been doing. We're talking about automation in our testing, for web apps. That's been there, but now we can also do stuff for desktop and, improve stability and better testing scenarios. So that was great. And then yesterday, our friends were on to talk about all things JavaScript, for Kende UI, which is, so many flavors of JavaScript frameworks that you can bring. You want to do Angular, React, or jQuery, we got you covered. So that was all of yesterday. And this is today. And, Ed and me are excited about this because we live and breathe in the .NET ecosystem. So we can talk about all things .NET pretty much, and what we can do to enable you to be, more successful. Ed will have the first hour to talk about all things web, that's Blazor and ASP.NET and MVC and Core. While I will take on the next hour and we'll talk about all things mobile and desktop. So a lot of different things to talk about, lots to show off in the next 2 hours. We are going to come back again next or this Friday, same time. We'll talk about productivity, because this is an important part of your enterprise workflows. How do you do reporting? How are you doing unit testing? How are you keeping track of what's going on under your network stack? With debugging and how can teams collaborate. So we'll talk about Fiddler, JustMock, and reporting. That's coming up this Friday at about the same time as now. All right, so like I said, you're giving us, precious time of your day, so thank you for being here. Use the time to ask us any questions. We are here. Ed and me will take some questions, but we also have folks in the back rooms. So there is a Q&A panel in the webinar window, so use that to ask away questions. If you are on the socials, especially on Twitter, ask us questions with that hashtag #HeyTelerik. That way we leave a breadcrumb and we can get back to you even after the webinar is done. In case anything happens to your connection, don't worry, we are recording this in high def and it'll be up on our YouTube channel as soon as possible. So everything we are doing is already live as of Wednesday of last week. This is our R3 release, so third big release of the year. We try to close out strong, and this one's a particularly important release because we have Test Studio and Fiddler. They have their own cycles, but this time around we have been able to align all of it. So Telerik and Kende UI and all of the tooling for testing debugging, and network tracing. They all go out together with this release. So this is a fun one for us. And everything that we talk about, they're all out there. Every team takes the time to write it up. So blogs.telerik.com. So look up what's interesting for your product, what's changing. But at the same time, look around. Maybe you already have Telerik DevCraft. Maybe you don't even know that we have these capabilities for you. So it's always good to keep an open mind and look around. What else are we doing? And everything that Ed and me show you today, they're all live as of last Wednesday. Hot bits, but you can go get them however you want. Maybe some of you want to just go to telerik.com or download the bits, so UI, or you can get those bits through NuGet or NPM. Maybe you use maybe a control panel to get our bits. So however you get those updated bits, we hope that you have them already, and you can tinker, you can play around with what we are showing you. Now, we are going to talk about all things .NET, and as we speak today, I think we stand on a very good, stable foundation. It's been a long time in the making. .NET Framework was there. We had .NET Core 3, 4, and 5, and now we are at a point with .NET 6 and going forward with .NET 7, where it's truly a unified development stack. It doesn't matter as much as to which one you're using. There are some differences platform-wise, but the tools are great. So we want to keep this actually a little interactive. So why don't we start off with a quick question for all of you. So let's see what you are using right now, because we will talk about a variety of different things. If you're doing framework, that's fine. But if you're doing 3 or 5 or 6 or 7, we want to know where you're at and what you're doing maybe to move ahead. So if you had to do a .NET app like this year, maybe you're maintaining something, or maybe you are thinking of migrating something, maybe you're starting up greenfield. What .NET are you on? What are you planning on using? All right, so let us know in the poll. Going once, going twice.
See how many bleeding edge folks we have today, Sam.
Absolutely, it's always good to see.
Hot bits.
Yes, indeed.
Those just updated last week.
Indeed, indeed. And we'll talk about all of that. So, all right, can we see where you folks are at?
.NET 6.
.NET 6.
It's a good place to be.
Lovely to hear. That is really nice. And for those of you running on .NET 3 and 5, you are already in a good spot. Like, you are already on core. And again, if you're running things on framework, don't let anybody tell you that it's going away, because it's fine. It's part of Windows. But it's so good to see so many of you on .NET 6, because that came out November of last year, and it has the LTS badge, long-term support badge. So enterprises get much more confidence going in with .NET 6, and things are going to get a little bit more exciting and fun with .NET 7. All right, so let's dive in. Now, before we go into each of the products, web and mobile and desktop, we do want to highlight this. We care about the developer experience. So all of our docs need to be solid. All of our demos need to give you all the things that you need to look at, and then we're always listening. So feedback.telerik.com, talk to us. You want to see something in our products, the PMs and our engineering teams are always listening. So please talk to us. We genuinely do care. So with that, let's start off with web. And maybe I'm like 5 or 6 minutes in, but actually before I give it to Ed, I know Ed's also wanting to know where people are with the web stuff. So why don't we do one more question for you folks? There's a lot of choice, especially for .NET developers building modern web apps. Where are you at? If you have to work on a web project now, are you doing Blazor, which is the bleeding edge thing that Ed wants to talk about? But the production reality might also be MVC or .NET Core or WebForms, which is also fine. I mean, you can think of ways of moving forward. Or is it none of it? Are you JavaScript folks? In this case, you're welcome to hear our side of the story. Ed, where do you think people might be here?
Oh, I think a lot of people are still using ASP.NET Core and they're pretty happy. And then a lot of folks are looking at Blazor. Like I could picture that meme, the one where the guy's looking back like everybody's looking at Blazor. It looks like the next best thing, and we've got some good demos here today to show off some of that.
Nice. All right, let's see where all of you are at. If we can see your responses here.
Yeah, Blazor picking up some steam there.
Blazor is really catching up. Yeah, no, and again, MVC and Core, that's your production reality. You are in a good spot. But Blazor, good to know that, it's been like, 3.5, 4 years that Blazor has been out. So it's production, ready, and it's battle tested. And, as we will hint a little bit when we talk about .NET MAUI, I mean, Blazor can now step out of just the web and, be on desktop and mobile as well. So it's a good place to be in terms of sharing code. But, if you're, writing straight up web apps, you got a lot of ammunition now, particularly from us. All right, Ed, with that, I think we are ready to hand it over to you and take us through all of the web things. I'm going to make you the presenter.
All right, Sam. All right, so we should be on my screen now. And I want to reiterate here, we're talking about all things web, but that doesn't exclude, or for this session, it kind of excludes our JavaScript folks. It doesn't mean we're not supporting you. If you want to do backend dev with .NET and you still want to use Angular, React, Vue, and Kendo UI on the front end, make sure you go over to our YouTube channel and check out the webinar that we did yesterday with our JavaScript folks. But today we're going to be focused primarily on our Telerik UI stuff, which is all of our .NET based front end. So we're going to start just with some quick mentions of our Telerik UI for Ajax. We have a new component there and some nice accessibility updates. And then for the rest of our component libraries, we have a brand new theme. So we have a brand new Fluent UI theme for ASP.NET Core MVC and Blazor. And then also we have a brand new product called ThemeBuilder Pro. So if you've seen ThemeBuilder in the past, it's still the same great theme builder that you know and love. That one is still there. And then there are some extended capabilities to ThemeBuilder that we're adding on as a brand new product. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail about what that is. So let's get started with our Telerik UI for Ajax announcement. We have a brand new floating action button. This is like the button that you'd see in maybe like Gmail or something like that, where you have that the floating button on the bottom or top of the screen where you can click on it and provide some actions. Either the button itself is an action or it'll fly out a menu with even more things that you can choose from. It's a nice, easy way to provide kind of a shortcut to actions that you need to perform in your app. We have accessibility improvements across the board as well. We've been doing AX testing on the library and making assessments on where things need to be improved and making those improvements. And we've updated our VPAT, our voluntary product accessibility template as well. And then, of course, there are the document processing libraries that are available for all of our products. And the document processing libraries, Sam will get a little bit more into details on what some of the new features are, and I'll show a demo of that as well. So let's just jump over to the web browser real quick and take a look at this floating action button that we have for the Telerik UI for Ajax. And again, this is very familiar if you've used kind of any of the Google apps. This is kind of a known UI pattern here. Where we have this floating button. We can click on this, add a new record. I've done that to add a new email in Gmail, I don't know how many times. And you can also control things like the alignment of that button. Where in the application do you want this to show up? We could choose bottom center and so on. So it's nice and easy to select that, set some offsets through some properties in that new button. So Telerik UI for Ajax, again, it's one of our oldest products. It's been around for quite some time, and we're still adding brand new things to it. It's nice to see support for all those WebForms developers that we've got here today.
Ed, can I take just a second from you?
Sure.
Since you just mentioned, so in the chat room, Doris Manning was talking about, in our question as to which .NET version are you using, we didn't have .NET 4, so our bad. But absolutely, if you're using .NET 4.8, 4, it's all good. It's .NET Framework, and as you can see, Ed talk about, ASP.NET Ajax. This is all WebForms. This runs on .NET 4. And you will see us, supporting you on, with WPF and WinForms as well. So you're in a good spot.
Now with Telerik UI for Ajax, we have quite a few themes already. It's one of our oldest products again, so we've got such a large array of themes there. you've got a lot of choices to make. With our newer products, ASP.NET Core, MVC, those type of things, we have three main base themes, or had three main base themes. We have the default, the material, and the Bootstrap theme. We got on board with the Fluent UI theme now. This is Microsoft's design system. So this is now available for Kendo UI and all of the Telerik UI for MVC, Core, and Blazor products. So we have this nice looking Fluent UI theme. It's the same theme that you see in Office 365. Microsoft built this to be more accessible, offer more intuitive interface, and we had a lot of folks asking for this to be part of the Telerik libraries as well. And we also have a similar theme on our desktop components, right, Sam?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, absolutely.
Now, moving on to Telerik UI for MVC and Core. I'm going to batch these together. Most of the updates you'll see here are for both. I'll let you know if one is specific to Core or not. But the MVC and Core UI libraries got a brand new signature UI component. So if you need to add that signature capability to your application, you can add that. You can draw with a pen, your mouse, any kind of touch input. It's a really nice gesture-based system to have. You can control all the colors, that sort of thing. We have the new drop-down button and split button. These are kind of like actions with menus. They're actually very similar to that loading button that I showed you for the Ajax components. So if you click on that button, you get even more options if there's other actions that can be taken. It's a nice way to condense down some of the common UI interactions that you might have, batch things together that have similar actions to take. So we've got a couple new components there, and that signature component is really a cool component that you can add a lot of functionality to your app with. And then this is an overall overreaching theme of all of our components is accessibility improvements. So we're making accessibility improvements across the board. We've got accessibility specific demos. I'll talk a little bit more about that with Blazor as well. We've got some updates with our data grid. We've got the ability to enable and disable column menus on a per column basis. We can also hide currently grouped columns. That's something that folks were asking for. We took a lot of feedback and incorporated that update. We've got local binding for our pivot grid. And then specific to ASP.NET Core, we have the security trimmings for the menu component. So if you have authorization attributes on your, or authorized views rather in your application, and you don't have access to those routes, then those will be trimmed out of the menu UI for you. This already existed in the framework version of ASP.NET Telerik UI for ASP.NET MVC. So it already existed there, and it's only new to Core, but it exists on both of those component libraries. And that's, again, something that folks were asking for, and we were able to get that done. We're also making a lot of improvements to our documentation in regards to our APIs for all of the components in the MVC and Core libraries. So we're going to continue with these API documentation improvements throughout next year as well. But this is something that folks will really benefit from. And we've heard your feedback, and we're making this happen. We've also added some Visual Studio productivity tools for the ASP.NET Core libraries, where you can do scaffolding, and we have code snippet packs as well to help you be more productive inside of Visual Studio. This is something that we released for Visual Studio Code in our last release, and now we have it for Visual Studio as well. So it's supported on both of those editors. But this is going to help you, just be much more productive without writing everything by hand. You can do a little bit of code generation with the scaffolding wizard. So if you need to generate that data grid and you don't know what all the properties are, you just pull that up inside of a UI in Visual Studio, check some boxes, and you're good to go. We also have tag helper code examples for all of our components now and our documentation. I could show you that in our live demos here. So let's jump over to the browser once again. Let's start off with taking a look at the signature component. This is, again, a very intuitive thing. You just use the mouse here, or if you've got a tablet, maybe you have a kiosk application, you can just draw with your finger if the input supports touch, that sort of thing. You could save this. There are a couple different actions that you can use as well to clear this out. It was full API support here. And then under appearance here, this is nice as well because you can configure some of the different, let's see, I think I might have hit the wrong demo here. There we go. You can control the line. You can even zoom in on the signature to make your signature easier to draw and clear it out as well. And all of those things are controlled under the properties for this component. And then it integrates nice with forms as well. So, maybe you're registering for something, or, you've got some sort of check-off process in your organization. You want to make sure that you have somebody's signature there. You can integrate that nicely with a form. And then, of course, you can export that image right to a PNG as well. So we've probably got some canvas going to work behind this, making this happen. And those can produce those PNG files for you.
Ed,
right.
Just to take a quick pause, can you walk us through what is this that you're showing? Is this demos.telerik.com?
Yes, this is demos.telerik.com. If you go to demos.telerik.com, you'll see all of the brand new things highlighted here on the demos page. So if you go here on demos.telerik.com, drill into the library that you'd like to use, and then you can see all the new things that we've added and updated. Jump right into demos of these. And not only that, let's go back to the signature component for just a moment. We can not only view the source of this, and this is where the tag helper demos are that I mentioned. There we go. If you click on this box up top, or this tab up top, you can switch over to tag helpers or HTML helpers, depending on what type of code you're writing. Because these are ASP.NET Core components here, they support both the tag helper syntax like you see here, or sorry, HTML helper syntax, or you can swap that over to the HTML-like tag helper syntax. So we've got both of those included here, and you can always bounce this over to edit in Telerik REPL. If you click on this button right here, you can edit these demos live right inside the browser and run them in real time. So you don't have to, download the entire library just to check out one component if you'd like. You can just do it right here in the browser, and you can see how that component is going to work, modify some of the properties of it, and see that live over in the other side of the browser. So
this is so nice.
Also,
you web folks have it so nice with the REPL.
Yeah, this is also really handy for support type of things. If you're stuck on something, maybe you feel like you have a bug, you always pop this out into the REPL and then hit share and share this with our support folks. That way they've got a sample of what you're seeing, and they can run that and reproduce that bug, or maybe this is just to help your teammates. They've got a problem that you're trying to work together on and do some pair programming. You can just ship that link off to your neighbor and have them work on whatever it is. So good stuff.
And Ed, while you're on the signature control, Dan Lodfella in the chat room may have been also answered already, but is there a signature component for Ajax?
Signature component for Ajax. Let's take a look. I cannot remember off the top of my head because there's over 100 components here.
You don't have, I know you have Blazor and other things to show, but if in case it's not there, Dan, please do let us know.
Don't believe we.
Yeah, so let us know if you need it.
I don't think that one is there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at some of our Blazor stuff now. Make sure we have some time for some of these Blazor demos because we have a lot A lot of stuff coming for Blazor. Again, it's one of the newest things, so it's going to have the most changes and updates because we're playing catch up with all of these long time supported frameworks that we've had. Like Ajax has been around for, gosh, it feels like 20 years almost. We've got hundreds of components there, and for core as well. There's the whole kitchen sink. So we're catching up with Blazor. We've got a lot of components coming. We've got 100 components in the Blazor suite, and this is one of the new ones that just dropped. Something that can really improve your experience for your end users, and that's our Blazor PDF viewer component. So you can pull up PDFs right in the application itself. I'll show an example of why this is important in just a minute. But this gives you a lot more granular control over how these documents are displayed with your application, rather than trying to rely on the browser to display the PDF documents natively. We also have a brand new set of components here, the multi-column combo box. This is one that folks frequently asked for, and here it is. So this is kind of a very detailed view and a drop-down. So you want to show some of the metadata. Maybe you're selecting a customer, like the example here. You also have some additional metadata being shown in a grid-like form or format. So this helps you, filter through those selections and make more intuitive choices. Then we have a loader style component. This is called the skeleton. And what's really nice about the skeleton is it gives the user a sense of what is trying to be shown on that page, rather than just showing like a spinner or something like that. Maybe you're pulling in records that are being shown in cards, like in this example. This is actually baked into the data grid as well. So, if you're scrolling through the data grid, you'll see these skeleton lines pop up. And this is something that's fully controllable by you as a developer to design skeletons that mimic the type of UI that you're going to show to the user. So this kind of makes the app feel a little bit more responsive and seamless, even when there are things that need to load and there's some latency involved. Lots of updates again here. We have drag and drop for the data grid and tree list. So this is a way to get data from one data grid to another. Just drag and drop those items and you get an API built around that. You have full control over the header class now for columns in the data grid, and you can control filter operations and the filter editor's formatting as well. Lots of updates with the Gantt. Gantt's one of our more popular and very complex components, and you can now easily manage state with that. We've added a rebind method that's similar to what you see in the data grid. You can modify the tooltips via template, and then you've got that filter editor format and operators property, just like you do in data grid. And I talked a little bit about accessibility, and this is going, throughout all of our component libraries. We're making strides to make all of our stuff more accessible. One of the things I did is I jumped over to our demos page and I ran a screen reader on that, just to kind of give folks a gist of what that does. So if you're able to enable your screen reader and go to one of our pages and navigate through one of our components, you'll hear all of those audio cues that folks that are using screen readers get. So if you're on a data grid, for example, and you're tabbing through the UI with the tab and arrow keys on your keyboard, so the component is keyboard accessible. You're navigating through these, and as you do it, the screen reader is reading out when you hit, for example, a grouping component. It'll say remove grouping by product if you're on the close button here of the grouping interaction. If you're up here on the top, it'll say it's sorted ascending by product name. These are all things that are being read aloud by the screen reader. And if you haven't done this before, I encourage you to maybe turn on a screen reader and see exactly what it's doing So when you're building your app, you have that kind of context in mind. So you can hear some of these audio cues and see just what it's like for people that use these to experience your application. So we're testing these components for accessibility. We've got our demos and our docs pages compatible with this as well. So make sure you give that a look. And additional Visual Studio productivity for VS and VS Code. We have Telerik UI for Blazor scaffolding, code snippets. We have an upgrade wizard, which is nice when we get new releases like these. You can go into your upgrade wizard and let that update all of your NuGet packages and things, and that will also help you update any CDN references, stuff like that, to make sure that it's a one-click operation rather than having to do things manually. And then you can also create new projects and configure those projects through the wizard as well. You can select different themes for your app and all of those things when you're generating some of those projects. And then, of course, the scaffolder, just like we have with ASP.NET Core, you can jump in there and generate data grids, all of the other components as well in a nice quick interface to kind of one-way generate some code without having to hand type some of the more complex components that are out there. And then Sam, you'll probably talk a little bit about reporting, but just a quick mention here, we have a native Blazor report viewer, and I'll show a live demo of what that looks like as well. So we've got a report viewer that is a Blazor component, but not only is it a Blazor component, the UI inside of it now uses native Blazor components as well. So you get a nice seamless feel. The theme is going to be the same across the UI components that you see inside of the report viewer, so it'll match your surrounding application as well. So you get that nice seamless experience, and you're working with the Telerik reporting product. Since it does require the Telerik reporting product, you do need license for both Telerik UI for Blazor and the Telerik reporting, and then some of the DevCraft licenses, I believe, have both of these as well. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, this is very exciting. Reporting, by the way, is a whole other domain to get into, so we will cover that on Friday when we talk about productivity. But this is so important, you know, for enterprises and workflows. I mean, there are ways around of, you know, rendering things on just pure web canvas, but having a Blazor report viewer makes it so much more performant. And like you said, like native Blazor controls. So
I've got a demo here of that exact component, and I've got a Blazor application here with the report viewer component in it. So you can see here we've got our report viewer component, and it's configured to consume some reports from our report server. So I'll go ahead and just run this so you can see how seamless that looks. And what's nice here is we're using a Blazor component, so we have, you know, our data binding happening here. So it's using the syntax that we're familiar with as a Blazor developer to get these reports dropped into our application. And then when it renders, it looks like the rest of our Blazor app. So we've got the shell here and the buttons and everything in the UI. These are all Blazor-based components. And then we have a report that's being viewed inside of it. So we could jump into, say, our dashboard here. We've got nice charts and things that are being rendered by the report that was built with the Telerik reporting product. So this is a way to get your reports into your Blazor applications and have that nice seamless integration across products. So it's really nice to see this all, you know, kind of materialize together. All right, so we've got our reporting. Let's jump over to another Blazor demo here. I've got open in Visual Studio. Some of these are kind of available as piecemeal demos up on our demos.telerik.com, but I thought I'd jump directly into Visual Studio to kind of show how you can improve your UX using some of the new things that shipped in this release, and I thought this was a pretty good idea of where folks are coming from that requested some of these things, as well as how to actually put some of these together. So one of the demos you'll see at demos.telerik.com uses our document processing library to generate a PDF on the fly. So if I click this button, there's code in this Blazor component to generate a PDF. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, and you'll see it prompted me down here to open the PDF. So I've kind of, it's kind of a disconnected UX here. I've got a button here, I clicked it. Now I've got to look down here to see that it generated something. And when I open it, it opens in a new tab all on its own, and I'm taken away from my application. So what I'd rather have is a way to display that generated PDF right here on the page. So let's go ahead and add some code to do that. And I do want to mention here as well, when you're forcing users to download a PDF like this, you actually have to invoke some JavaScript to do that, because there's no native way for Blazor to alert the user they need to download something. So in this demo file exporter library that I have here, this is literally some code that is part of the demo. It uses some JavaScript behind the scenes to invoke that download and tell the user that this file is being sent to them in the browser to kind of recognize that this is a download. It's kind of for the web even, this feels kind of hacky the way this happens. This is a web thing, by the way, not a Telerik thing. This is, if you're using any sort of front-end tools, you're going to have to do this type of thing where you call Windows save file. And then a lot of this has to do with kind of tricking the browser that there is an anchor that you have to click programmatically and force that download to happen. I'd rather take this and put this in a view right on the page inside of a nice component and not take the user away from the app experience. And then once I do that, I could actually come in and delete this messy JavaScript that I feel is kind of a hacky thing for the browser to need. So let's go ahead and do this. I've got some prepared code here as well, so you don't have to see me type all of this out. Let me grab the right screen here, and we'll get the demo back up here. The first thing I want to do here is create an experience for the user. So when they are waiting for the document to generate, there's something on screen that's letting them know work's being done. So I'm going to use one of those skeleton components that I was talking about. We have that new Telerik skeleton UI component, and let's just drop one of those on the page here to see what that looks like. We've got the Telerik skeleton. We can control the shape of it. So I'm going to use the text shape. So that's going to create like a line across the screen, and then we can set the animation as well. I've got this one set to wave, and each Telerik skeleton is an individual component, and we can combine these however we like to make our own skeleton display. So if we go back to our view here, you can see this line that's all the way across the screen. That is one of our skeleton components rendering what should be a line of text. All right, we'll go back into Visual Studio here, and I'm going to take this off of the main index page. We'll just go ahead and throw this in a brand new component. We'll go over to our Solution Explorer here and just drop in to my shared folder. I'm going to say, give me a new Razor component. And inside of Razor components here, let's do a PDF skeleton.razor file. And because we're limited on time, instead of typing out this entire thing, I'm just going to go ahead and paste this from my little cheat sheet. And I've got a Telerik stack layout. You can do this with CSS if you like, or you can just drop in a Telerik stack layout. And we're going to do a horizontal layout and center the content. Then I'm going to apply a couple classes here just to give it a little bit of a nice look and feel. There's some padding and a little bit of a gray hued background. And then I've got the full height of the page. So this layout's going to take up the remainder of the height of the page. And then I'm going to drop in a Telerik card. with a specific width here, and this is going to look like a PDF file when I'm done. And inside of the card body, I've got multiple Telerik skeleton components here that outline what that PDF might look like. I've got a little bit of a rectangle up top that kind of simulates what a header would be, and we can drop this now into our page. So we'll go over and say PDF skeleton, and now we've got a PDF skeleton on our index page. So we'll go ahead and run this one more time. And this is what the user will see as that PDF is being generated. So we've got this nice layout here. We could add as many lines as we'd like to this just by creating more skeleton components inside of it. You kind of get the gist that there's some sort of document here. And that's the nice thing about these skeleton components. We can put different shapes together and mimic, what it is that's loading in the background. Next thing I want to do is when I generate the doc, instead of throwing it into a download, I'm going to replace the skeleton with our PDF viewer. So we'll go ahead and drop that in next. And let's go ahead and get off screen. I'm fighting with the GoToMeeting stuff that's covering up all of my code I'm trying to copy. So bear with me for just a second. And we're going to replace this code here with just a little bit of logic to turn some things on and off. And we've got our button is inside of, I'm going to display the button only if there's no document being that has been generated yet. If the document is generating, we're going to display that skeleton. And once the generating is complete, we'll go ahead and display the PDF viewer and pass the data that was generated from the Telerik document processing library. So it's generating that PDF on the fly. That PDF gets turned into a byte array, and the byte array just gets loaded into the PDF viewer. So it should just display right there on the page. Now, because I'm displaying it on the page, I don't need this file exporter anymore. We're not going to be prompting the user to download it. We have a nice UI component to display it instead. So with that, I can replace this async call with a little bit of code. And we're just going to set up a flag here. When the document's generating, we're going to display our skeleton just to put a little bit of delay in there just so you can visually see the skeleton. We're going to put a delay of a second or two here. Obviously, you wouldn't do this in production code, and the DPL or document processing library is so quick. In this demo running on my machine, you do not see the skeleton. So I'm putting this in here just for demo purposes so you can see it. We'll generate that file and drop it in our data field there, and then turn off that skeleton component. So we'll go ahead and rerun this, and then you could see the full thing come together. Now, what you won't see me do is go back through and delete the unnecessary code here. So that is the nice part of this is once I do this, I could go back into my application and delete the unused JavaScript interops that are being used to display that download information. Now we've got a nice seamless experience. I can click generate and view document. We're going to get that preview there, and then it loads right here in the browser, and then I can choose to download that document through the viewer instead of having that odd prompt that shows up. I can also print, open other documents as well, and then, of course, zoom in, zoom out, those type of things right from the component. Much better experience than what we had before. So that is how you can combine some of the tools in the tool set here. We've got PDF generation through the document processing library. We've got the skeleton component to show some loading features, and then we've got the PDF viewer to actually view those live in the browser. It just gives you a much more seamless experience. One quick mention here too, there is a loading animation built into the PDF viewer. So if you were to load a large PDF document while that document is processing to load, it has its own loading animation that it will display. The only thing that doesn't have a loading animation is the generating of a PDF. So that's why I used that skeleton component to notify the user that some sort of process is happening in the background. If you're not generating these PDFs on the fly, you can just rely on the PDF viewer's internal loading animations for that type of behavior.
Hey, Ed, if you can have you pause for a second. This, by the way, is very well done, very nice, demo and user experience, and it kind of makes me happy because like the whole skeleton experience and it's kind of mobile is where it kind of began, and now it's everywhere. And I also like that you're using like stack layout type things, which is very XAML-ish way of
it is
layering out your visual tree. So a couple of questions here from the chat room, which may have been answered yet, but Ed and me are going to talk about it because it benefits all of us. Kurt Downley was asking if the PDFs are being displayed, are those natively PDFs? So yes, absolutely. That's exactly where our document processing libraries come in. They'll let you, add, delete, manipulate all types of, native documents. So Word, spreadsheets, Excel, and PDFs. So we are talking about absolutely native PDFs. And the benefits of that document processing library can be seen all across. So it's for web, for mobile and desktop, we use the same libraries all across, so you get the same experience. Scott Walton here was asking Ed if somebody is already using a report viewer component in Blazor, which you can view reports, and we have an HTML viewer. Should you move over to the Blazor report viewer, and how much of an upgrade that would be? So I'll let you chime in, but my initial thoughts are like you don't have to, but you will get a much more performant and a better UX using the Blazor report viewer. And if you're already in Blazor land, like the syntax, Razor syntax, everything will feel native to you as a Blazor developer. But your thoughts?
Yeah. So first, I don't know what happened there, Sam, but your mic got really quiet at the end. I can still hear you, but it might need to be something that has to be fixed before you go through your segment. Yeah, I agree with the sentiment there that it's probably a better experience. The current way that it works, or the prior way that it worked before the native Blazor report viewer, is that it used the Kendo libraries to display that. And the theme would not match your Blazor theme of your application. So that is one of the main things that it solved there, is it gave you that matching theme. So where you see the toolbar inside of your report viewer, that has changed, and that is going to be more seamless across your Blazor application if you use the new one. As far as upgrading from one to the other, I'm not 100% sure what the experience is like. I do know that the data binding and everything is pretty intuitive. There's probably similar properties with what you're already using that are just Blazor syntax versus whatever you're using now. So yeah, I would say to upgrade it and see what you think. Let us know in our feedback of how it works. If there's anything that we could do better, please let us know at feedback.telerik.com, and those are updates that we can consider to make. If you're looking at the document processing stuff, by the way, the PDF processing demo that I used as part of the demo that I just did, you can find here in demos.telerik.com on the right-hand side. There's quite a bit of document processing examples here. And some of them deal with like conversion and things like that. So you can even read and write from forms into documents, merge and split. There's a lot of great demos in here, and these exist for all of the component libraries. Blazor specifically, you can find on this right-hand side under document processing. It's pretty similar across the other products as well. Some variations of these, there might be some minor details that are different between each of the demos, but for the most part, all the demos have, or all the product pages have these demos. And then I've got one more topic to get into before I transfer everything over to Sam. So we got about 10 more minutes here. We're going to take a look at ThemeBuilder and talk a little bit about .NET 7. So ThemeBuilder Pro, this is a brand new product for us. So we've had ThemeBuilder as part of our product already. This is how you would theme your components that you're using. Let's just jump into it so you can take a look at what ThemeBuilder can do. And if you go to our demos pages and you want to just link directly off to it, you can just choose a theme here and say start Telerik ThemeBuilder, and you'll actually get bumped over to themebuilder.telerik.com, or you can just type themebuilder.telerik.com in your browser, and you can start a brand new theme in there. Now, what's new to ThemeBuilder that is part of ThemeBuilder Pro is that you need to log in on the home page. If this is feels like it is something that you didn't see before, it's because in order to access ThemeBuilder Pro, you need a license. But the regular ThemeBuilder, if you have your Telerik account, you can just log in and start creating a brand new project. Now, this is a brand new addition to ThemeBuilder here, where we have our saved projects, and we can go back. Since we did log in, we can go back and look at projects that we've worked on in the past. So we can create a brand new project, give it a name, and then we can select one of our base themes here. We have our Fluent theme coming, by the way. You will see that here shortly. But we can jump into the default, the Bootstrap, the material theme, and begin modifying those themes for our application. And we'll pop in here and hit create. And then we're in familiar territory. This is where ThemeBuilder has existed for quite a while now. We can go over on our sidebar here, and we can select some of our colors that are being used in the UI. Maybe we want to take this blue, turn that over to more of a purple color, or one of my favorites. I like a nice bright orange. Make some pretty cool. My computer froze a little bit for a second there on the stream. You can see all of the UI change to that bright yellow or orange color in all of the UI components. So this has been ThemeBuilder for a while now. What's new with ThemeBuilder Pro here is we can go over and hit Advanced Edit. And notice a little outline that showed up around all of the components. I can come into something like buttons here, and now I can look at these at an atomic level. So what that means is I can zoom way in on these components. These are all of the variations of the button component, and I have every single property that makes up all of the pieces of this button. So if I look at the normal state, say, of the primary button, you can see that it is getting its background here from the primary variable. So I can change the background color to a different variable. I could put in a hard-coded color here, and I can come into all of the various things, the margin, the padding, sizes, the gap between the items, the alignment, position, the border and border radius, and I can make this look like our design system at X company, right? So you can hand this tool over to designers. You can sit down and work with them. It's a great collaboration tool. And then once you're done collaborating on your theme, you or the designer can export this into a zip file. And when you export it, you're going to get both the CSS. So it depends on what type of build system you're using, what you might want to use. So we've got a CSS file here that has everything we need for our components. So we're going to drop this into our build pipeline, and we can do some CSS compilation and build those themes that we see in the theme builder using Sass. So we've got everything that we need right here in one zip file. It also has a configuration file in there as well, and you can use those configuration files with your build system. So yeah, we've got this fine granular control here. We can control icons. I mean, it's all in here. You can get really detailed with these designs now inside a theme builder, and it's really exciting where we've taken this ThemeBuilder Pro and added a lot more functionality to it. You get this nice live preview down here as well of what you're doing right in the browser. And this is all browser based. This is all inside the browser. So you can open it up from any machine. Makes it nice and cross-platform. There's a lot more to this as well that I just don't have time for today. You can add custom variables, which is something that is part of Pro that we didn't have before. So come in, create a SAS variable right here in the UI. So if you're not a SAS expert, this is a nice middle ground for you as well, where you can come in and modify things and add new properties and variables and whatnot. So that is a little overview of ThemeBuilder Pro. Right now, ThemeBuilder Pro supports all of the Kendo UI products and Telerik UI for Blazor. It will expand pretty soon to include MVC and Core as well. So it's not there yet for MVC and Core, but it will be. And then, of course, you have support with ThemeBuilder Pro. It's a brand new product. And we're happy to share that with you today. If you want to learn more too, there was other demos that were done in the JavaScript or Kendo UI webinars that you can see on our YouTube page. So I recommend going over to our YouTube page when that webinar goes live on YouTube, and then dive into Catherine's segment where she jumps into ThemeBuilder as well. And just to round things out here, Sam, at the top of the hour, we've got .NET 7 Preview 7 capabilities with Telerik UI for Blazor and ASP.NET Core. So we are compatible with the latest preview release. So if you're checking those out, you can load up Telerik UI for Blazor or ASP.NET Core and check out the preview bits with our components. They should be compatible with the latest release. Do all the bleeding edge stuff.
Well, color me jealous with the ThemeBuilder Pro for native apps, like mobile or desktop. Like we have themes and we can customize, but we don't use CSS, so we don't have all the nice tools that web developers have sometimes. But this is really exciting. Just a couple of questions here, Ed, before we get into my stuff. Benjamin Keller was wondering if some of the controls which are like data intensive, like data carts or grids, could they have like a skeleton built into them? And that's not a bad idea, because like that's kind of what we do for native apps anyways. Like we'll show you a skeleton, then we replace it with the actual stuff. So yeah, that's a good suggestion for us to consider.
They actually do already have that capability. Yeah, so like the data grid, has, I don't remember where this is at. I believe you could see it on the loading. There's a loading animation that's different. If we look at virtualization, I believe you can get that effect in there. So if we look at data binding, nope, not data binding, sorting. Oh, gosh, I should note this. Virtualization, column virtualization. If we scroll, row virtualization, there we go. There you go.
There we go.
You see it in there. So some of the more data intensive controls do have that. If you see one that doesn't have it and you'd like to have it, please let us know on our feedback channels. Most of our components have some sort of loading animation if they have a data binding that we expect there to be kind of a some sort of a delay. So you'll see it in virtualization. In the PDF viewer, for example, I showed a little bit of that. If we dig into the events there, you actually could see that spinning for a moment. You can kind of see it spin there, and you'll see a call out to it in the API. If you're typing in Visual Studio with IntelliSense, you can turn that feature on and off, but there is a loader built into that as well. So pretty much all of the data intensive stuff has some sort of loader. If there's a more improved version of that loader you'd like to see, or a skeleton, drop us a line, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And Xenophon Cloete in the chat room had a good suggestion that maybe we can expand on just styling for apps anyways, like talk about all things CSS, SAS, and ThemeBuilder Pro, and what can we can all do together. So absolutely good suggestion. We can take that up maybe on a live stream or on a separate webinar. So good stuff. And then one thing I will just add on to what Ed said at the very end with our support. So all along when you saw Ed doing Visual Studio, and you're going to see me, it's Visual Studio 2022 on Windows. So we are on the latest and greatest tooling. And runtime wise, when .NET 7 is cooking for a while, it's scheduled for November of 2022. I think we have an RC1 now, first of the 2 release candidates. I think our code cutoff date was like a day sooner. We are already on RC. So while we can officially say we work with Preview 7, you can be sure that we will work with all of the .NET 7s going forward. So Ed, is there anything else from you?
Nope, I think this is all I've got for now, Sam. I'll turn it over to you. I know you have a lot to cover.
Yes, indeed. Here's my hour of fast talking, but we'll try to do justice to all of the products as much as I can here. So that was all things web, and hopefully you can see my screen. And let's go a little bigger, full screen on this. Let's talk mobile and desktop, and what can we do for native developers to be a little bit more successful. We're going to start actually with a poll, because I'm about to get into all of the fun stuff with .NET MAUI and Xamarin, and surprisingly, Ed and my worlds are kind of coming together because we can share a lot more code between web and mobile and desktop. So we want to know, like, if you are setting out to build a cross-platform app today, given all that we are about to cover, and given what what would you choose? Would you do Xamarin, which is the production reality for cross-platform .NET apps? Would you go on to .NET MAUI? Are you waiting on .NET MAUI to mature a little bit more? The platform has been out, tooling is kind of getting matured. Are you waiting on .NET 7? Or would you rather not do cross-platform? You're sticking to your web stuff, or you're sticking to your native Windows stuff? So let us know where you're at. Going once, going twice, and let's see your responses. Okay, all right, and that's totally fair and fine. You don't have cross-platform dev plans, that's fine. But again, if your plans change, if your manager, if your customer comes in and asks for cross-platform apps, it's good to know that you have all of this arsenal, in your, all of this ammunition in your arsenal, ready to go. So some of you are looking around, waiting around for .NET MAUI, looking to migrate. So that's all good to know. And folks on Xamarin, you're in a good place as well. You got time. All right.
I think we'll see that last option start blending more into the third one. So I think folks will start jumping on MAUI when they see just exactly what it can do.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so I'm 5 minutes in from the top of the hour. Let's get going. Let's start with .NET MAUI. So, I'll try to get through some of the basics quickly so I can show you the actual stuff that we have worked on. But, just so if you're new, MAUI is multi-platform app UI. It's an evolution of Xamarin Forms. Kind of started from a mobile first mindset, but now it's very much on desktop. So we, from a true single shared code base with shared resources, we can now target mobile and desktop. So iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac very comfortably. Great story for .NET developers, easy platform API access, reworked architecture, so everything is fast and performant. .NET MAUI has been out since May of 2022. Tooling for a Windows side with Visual Studio 2022, it's done as of August, and the Mac side is kind of catching up a little bit. So, a lot of you said .NET 7 is where you're going to see this, and that's totally fine. Just, come November, you're going to see everything be very mature, but this is ready, and it's production ready for you right now to start playing around with it. So we have been on this journey with the .NET MAUI team from the very get-go. Like when they first released their first preview, like we were there with them. They've had 14 previews, and as have we. So every time there's a .NET MAUI release, we push out our bits, and we were amongst the very first to have a fully supported production suite ready for you. So .NET MAUI, Telerik UI for .NET MAUI is our evolution of the cross-platform .NET strategy going forward. It's polished, performant UI as you expect from us, and it's meant for all things mobile and desktop. So we had day 0 support with .NET MAUI going GA, and here we are. We started with 1.0, which was our GA version. We are up to 3.0 now. That runs on the latest .NET MAUI bits. In fact, just this week we had .NET MAUI working for the first time with .NET 7 RC1. We are the one being, one release behind, so you're going to see us catch up right after today. But we are right there with Microsoft, trying to give you all of the UI. And this is actually particularly interesting because for the first time, we have always done desktop, we have always done mobile, but for the first time, you're getting UI from us that works seamlessly between mobile and desktop. So we don't take that lightly. We know how important UX is, and we are trying to do our best to do the right thing for Windows, Mac, and iOS and Android. All right, so we promise you top-notch tooling and all the things that you expect from us: your charts, your grids, your schedulers, your all of the heavy-hitting controls. They're right there for you. We try to help you out a little bit as well with tooling. So if you're on Visual Studio 2022, you can do command line everything, but to be more productive, maybe you want to bring in a NuGet package. Maybe you want to start off with one of our Visual Studio templates. We can get you started with all of our bits in build. If you are on Visual Studio, you will also have access to a toolbox, which gives us all of your UI, right there on the left, so you can drag and drop and bring it into any of your XAML pages as you're going along. So tooling, use it as much as you want. We can step out of the way and just let you shine, but we are here for your productivity. So top-notch tooling, and it's ready. So we did a couple of big things with .NET MAUI this release. So we are at 3.0, like I said, a couple of brand new controls which were heavily asked for by folks who have been using our stuff. So we have a data form UI, which is the classic way in which mobile and desktop apps present forms over data. You are trying to collect some data from the user. Maybe you have an object backing it up, and you just want to quickly render a form and collect the inputs, have some validations in place. We have that for you, so you don't have to hand code all of the UI. You give us an object, a C# object, and we can render all of the UI. We have built-in editors based on your property types. Is it a string? Is it a dropdown? Is it going to be a calendar or a date picker? We got all of that for you, so you can seamlessly just render the form, and then you can customize to your heart's content. Different types of commit modes. So do you want to batch edit, or do you want to go one at a time? And if you have like annotations in your data, like this field is required, or things like that, we work with that as well. If you're using an MVM design pattern, model view model, we'll work with commands as well. So really strong data form UI now ready for you out of the box. And just in that example here, you'll notice in the screenshots how we tend to cater to the different experiences on mobile as well as on desktop. Same exact UI that you're rendering as a developer, you can just say render a data form and forget about it, and we will take care of rendering it right for desktop as well as a mobile. So touch versus mouse type support. So data form is done and ready. We also have an autocomplete. We have autocompletes for just about every suite, and this one was particularly well done. Again, we are trying to cater to Windows and Mac and iOS and Android being different, and we want to cater to that right user experience on whichever platform that you're on. So easy selections from a predefined list, it's done. It has token support, so you can, everything that the user selects from that list is a token. So you can have one, or you can have multiple tokens, and then you can erase them as you go along. You can filter, you can have different types of suggestion modes, and how those items show up as the user is typing is completely up to you. You get to customize that with templates, and you get to make it look like however you want, and you can bind to very nested objects behind the scenes as you are layering up the autocomplete to come and render from a data object. So autocomplete UI is there for you to use now. We also have an expander UI. This is, a simple little thing that gets out of your way, but it's so useful to organize the content. Because like maybe you have a busy screen that you're building. Maybe it's a desktop app, or maybe it's a mobile app where you have different types of wizards in it. This is just a container control. So put anything you want in it. It's going to save you some space, and it's a nice user experience where everybody knows to tap on that and just open up the expander. You get to control the animation, the duration, and the easing of exactly how it opens and closes. And you have a nice rich API to make it look like however your app demands. So 3 brand new controls, but we've been also working on a few other things. In fact, we have customers who are working on .NET MAUI just to write mobile first apps. And we have customers who are taking their desktop apps, things maybe with WinForms or WPF, and you're looking at MAUI and maybe trying to modernize things and write a real cross-platform desktop application. So we have to kind of cater to both audiences here, mobile and desktop. Desktop has very different needs because it's, it's dense and it's, a lot more real estate means a lot more busy UI. So data grid, for the first time, you have a data grid from us that works seamlessly across iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac. And again, that's a big thing to say because it's the same exact data grid. So we have done some things which cater to desktop. We have done some things that cater to mobile. So we have, it's much more evolved. We have a new grouping UI, which makes it really nice and easy to, drag and drop and have things grouped. And kind of going with the grouping, you also have footers. You have footers for every column and you have footers for every group. So it's easy for you to kind of show whatever you want at the end of the grid or the group and at the end of the column. And since we have, already have footers, it's natural for us to have aggregate functions, which is the perfect place to kind of add up or do an average, do a min or a max of all the data that's actually in the grid. So all of this is done. And now it's ready for you, works seamlessly across web or actual desktop and mobile. So I would love to actually show you some of this in action. Now, speaking of seeing things in action, you don't have to trust anything that I say. Go take a look yourself. We have been busy trying to cook up some really nice demo apps, and we have put those in the stores. So go look on iOS or Android or Windows and find those apps so you can play around with our UI without having to install anything. You can see all of our UI light up. So we have a GitHub repo. Everything that I'm showing you is open source, so you can go play. These are real world apps, written with, maybe not an MVVM framework, but a very, strong MVVM design pattern. And we have outsourced, open source the code, so you can see exactly how we are building up the UI. So great examples to kind of tinker around with. All right, and that brings us to Blazor Hybrid. So everything that Ed talked about with Blazor, I think Blazor and .NET MAUI are kind of the key pillars of .NET innovation going forward. And these worlds are kind of, coming together a little bit, which is, a wonderful news because now you can share so much more code. Blazor developers for the first time are finding a new web view in .NET MAUI. I mean, sure, you could have done this with Electron before, but it was maybe a little heavy-handed. You could not reach mobile, but .NET MAUI takes a different approach with a lighter weight web view, and it's a smart abstraction that knows exactly which web view to grab for iOS, Android, Windows or Mac. And all of your Blazor stuff just lights up on, a desktop or a mobile canvas, which is, wonderful news. And I'm sure like Ed is excited about this, and Ed and me spend a lot of time looking ahead at this. But, all of our stuff, we don't talk about this enough, but it all works. So all of the Blazor UI that you saw from Ed, it'll just work on .NET MAUI, which is, wonderful. All right, and I think we will have you, chime in a little bit on exactly where you see this panning out for your controls and your apps. But let's talk about Xamarin, right? Now, this is the production reality for lots of, a lot of you, and it's been, 7-8 years in the making. No one's moving your cheese, but this is the evolution. .NET MAUI is the evolution of how Xamarin started out and where we are at. .NET MAUI is trying to cater to some of the pain points that we have with Xamarin, but again, you don't have to jump ship. You're fine if you're doing Xamarin. Microsoft will have formal support for you until like May of 2024. We would like to support you for longer, so you have time to move things over. So if you are new to our Xamarin suite, this has not changed in the last couple of years. It's a strong suite with lots and lots of components out of the box. This is like 7 years of engineering you're looking at. Lots of ways to customize, localize, and globalize. You can work on Windows, you can work on Mac, you can bring our UI in through a NuGet package or Visual Studio templates. And document processing, we talked about that a little bit, and I will talk much more about it with the desktop, but it's just kind of all built in. So be it MAUI or be it Xamarin, you get those benefits from .NET processing, or document processing libraries. So again, Xamarin is mature, and we are bringing over some of the things that we did for .NET MAUI over to Xamarin as well. So data grids, we have again had the data grid for iOS and Android. Now it just gets grouping support. Now it gets aggregate support. It gets footers. So really nice and flexible, customized look and feel for your grids on iOS or Android. We have also done a little bit more around the pickers. We have done lots of bug fixes, lots of stability improvements, but some of our pickers are really nice because they show up as modal, and then based on what you're showing, it can be like an infinite scrolling list, or if you want to limit that to a subset of items, then you can do that too. Xamarin gets all of the data grid updates, it gets all of the document processing updates, and lots of stability improvements. So that's Xamarin in a nutshell. And we also have apps for you to look at if you are new to the Xamarin world and you would like to go out to the app stores and see some of these apps. These are also all open source, so you can check out the source code on GitHub. So we have ERP apps, CRM apps, to-do list apps, and they're all out there. And if you install our stuff, like the QSF app, we call it, that's our inbuilt like a showcase application for all of our controls. I'll show you that. That's out there as well. So you can really have no dearth of examples to look at. Try to get inspired with how or what we are doing with MAUI and Xamarin. All right, let's see if I can actually show you some of this stuff. While I'm switching, Ed, any quick questions I can respond to?
There was a question, I think it's kind of an early one, but somebody was asking about virtualization in the data grid for desktop.
Yeah, and again, we take that seriously. You're going to see that all across Xamarin and MAUI, and of course the desktop suites being more mature. They have had it for a while. So WPF, WinForms, they will all do virtualization. So while we do not recommend that we bind, especially on mobile, like we should not be shipping 100,000 records to the client side and binding. If you do, we want to make sure we are trying to do our best to not have your grid slow down. It should still scroll. Same goes with like list view or any other collection view that you're showing. So while it's not recommended, especially for mobile, we do have virtualization built in. All right, so let's look at some stuff here. So I am showing you, and hopefully you can still see my screen here. I am showing you all of our .NET MAUI stuff first, and then the Xamarin stuff. You can see like .NET MAUI came out 0.0.1 semantic versioning way back in I think May of 2021. And here we are with 3.0, which is the latest version. And once you install them, you get the binaries, you get the examples, you get some app packages right there. So the NuGet packages are right there if you don't want to get it again. The examples have 3 of them built in now. There is a control gallery, there's a crypto tracker, which is very cool, and then an SDK browser for how do I do this type of scenario. So let me show you the control gallery real quick. I mean, it has all of the UI that I told you. Let's run this on a Mac, and I'm on Visual Studio for Mac here, which is still in preview, but things work. Almost everything works. So I'm going to start this up. And I chose Mac as my destination because this is going to be now a desktop application. It's busy and it's fully functional, trying to use all of the real estate. So once this app comes up, you can see that this is a control gallery essentially of all the apps or all the UI that we have in .NET MAUI. And it's coming up. There you go. All right, so this, like I said, it's a full-on desktop app. It's running natively on a Mac using Mac Catalyst, which is beautiful. And you can play around with all of this UI right here. Let me take you to the data form. This was the one I was talking about. And if you wanted to kind of take a look into what is the code that's rendering this, you can click on this view code right here. I'm going to do that. It's going to take you directly to the GitHub repo, which shows you exactly that piece of code that you're looking at. So it's really nice, and you can see how the rendering of it is you give it an object, we will render the form for you. We will make sure it's good for desktop and mobile. And if you look at some of the customizations options, you can make it look however you want, like with icons or different things, like phone numbers, like that's possibly going to have like regex. So we are very careful, and we know exactly what data types you might expose out of a C# object, and we have built-in editors, and then you can customize things to your heart's content. So let's take you back home here. I'm going to show you the autocomplete, which is, as you start typing, especially on mobile devices, you don't want the user to type a whole lot. You want that suggestion to come up quick. So if as I start typing, you can see the suggestions come up here. I can choose one, and then I can keep typing, and I can choose more. So that's tokens, and I can, remove them, one at a time. And so it's really nice, and then you get the different experiences. So in this case, if I start typing, you can see I have an icon here. It looks a little different, so this is a template, so you can make it look exactly the way you want in your app. Let's take a look at the expander control here. This is, just a simple thing. The user just naturally, intuitively knows that you're supposed to be clicking on that, and you get an expander. And inside of it, that's a container, so you can put whatever you want inside of it. It's just a nice way to, organize your content and, use it for navigation if you wanted to. So that's, the expander control. The data grid here, if I can jump into that, this is a powerful data grid. Like I said, for the first time, you have it working on iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac. So let's show you the grouping here. So the grouping here, this is going to render a data grid, and it's trying to render all of these, looks like some flights here. You can, on a per column basis, you can turn on and off grouping if you'd want. Looks like airline, I can group by airline. So I simply grab that and I drag it over to this little section here. That's my grouping. So now it's grouped per airline. So, and you can have multiple grouping here. We'll let Ed go on Air Comfort. These are actually funny names here. I'm just reading them for the first time. Australian Airlines, that's really legit. Butterfly Airways, I'll take Butterfly Airways. It will take Air Comfort. So we can, group things all together. We can have, aggregate support. So this is new. So once kind of goes along nicely with grouping, or you can just do on a per column basis. So let's just say you're showing like sales data in a dashboard. So you want to see breakdown of per country. So here's Argentina. Here's my grouping. That's using a footer to show you that there are 16 orders worth this much just out of Argentina. So really nice and flexible, and it just works seamlessly between mobile and desktop as well.
Sam, yeah. Is there a tree view component for MAUI yet? This is a question from chat.
I don't think there is one, but I want to say it is on our roadmap. So it might be coming to us very, very soon. So please check out the public roadmap. If it's not for some reason, please do let us know, but that is not a new demand. I mean, enterprise apps love a tree view, and I think it's very much on our roadmap and coming soon. So yeah, check out this app. This is our control sample gallery. And then let me show you one more thing before we move off MAUI here. I'm watching my time. I think we should still be good. So I'm going to show you one more thing here where I can show you the crypto tracker app, and just to kind of show you an example of how nicely MAUI plays along. So let's run this on iOS now. This is running on iPhone. Let's just do 13 Pro Max. Let's go ahead and fire this up, and we're going to run this here on an iOS device. It's going to go talk to Xcode, do the build, and come back. Works exactly the same way on Android and Windows and Mac as well. But this one's it's an iOS build, and this one's kind of a sample app that lets you track cryptocurrencies. The data is obviously fake, but you can kind of get an idea of having a tracker that kind of keeps track of your daily fluctuations in prices and so on. So it's coming up here on my iPhone or iOS simulator. It's a cold start, so it takes a second. But what I want to show you is, even though this is .NET MAUI, even though it's a single code base that works across mobile and desktop, you can actually take some inspirations and cater to different UXs on different form factors, because you really want to impress the user with touch as well as on mouse and desktop support. So here's the crypto tracker app. It's just a list of things here. I can click on any one of them, and then it kind of takes me into a detailed view. So Bitcoin, how is that doing over weeks, over months, over 6 months? And I can show off different types of charts or graphs. This is like a candle view chart. So that's the experience on on a mobile form factor, where we show you a list and then you kind of drill down. But I can take the same exact application here and I can change up where this runs. So let's just say I want to run this on Windows or Mac, and I should get a different experience. And this is actually fairly easy for developers to do. I mean, all we can do is, reuse the same views that we have, just position them differently. So in this case, you're going to notice that since we have a bigger surface area, we are on desktop, we can actually put the same views, but now side by side. So we're not reinventing anything. We just don't have to do something completely, off the charts for desktop, but I can, bring in multiple views together and just kind of cater to the fact that you are on desktop. So you can do a lot of different things like this, which is really nice. You can see the same list. So I'm not redoing anything. It's the same list of Bitcoins or cryptocurrencies, but except that when you tap on each one of them, the detailed view is just kind of right there next to you. So a really nice experience of catering to desktop and mobile kind of accordingly. All right, let's switch gears here. Let's close this out. I think I have Visual Studio. The Xamarin parts, I have it running as well. Let's show you that real quick. And again, Xamarin, if you're new to this, we have had Xamarin UI Suite for quite some time. This is the app that you get when you install the bits. Also the same app that you can go and check out on iOS and Android. This is the code base that powers the app that we put out in the stores. So you can kind of see a fully baked real world application that's kind of really busy, has all of our UI kind of in place, but just kind of works seamlessly nice. So we'll wait for this to restore some packages. Looks like it's getting that going, and as soon as it's done, I can fire this up. I don't want that on an iPad Touch. Let's do iPhone 13, and let's go ahead and run this real quick. So this is Xamarin, and again, nothing is changing. We are just adding more love into Xamarin. You have 2 years to consider moving over to .NET MAUI. That's going to give you the benefit of using the same code pretty much, XAML and C#, but now you're being able to start with Windows and Mac. And Microsoft has been working on some upgrade assistance that's going to make that transition a little easier, but it's not hard. Even if you wanted to do it manually, it's not hard. Like all of our UI, we will just swap over some DLLs and change up some namespaces, and then you have a MAUI app. It's truly single project, SDK style project, and it kind of takes away some of the pain of catering to iOS and Android separately. It's now truly a single code base. So let's see if this is up and running. Look at that. So as compared to Ed, I actually have to run each of the simulators. I just don't have a web browser to bring this up. I mean, we can fake it on a web browser, but it won't be native at that point. So this is the exact app that you can pull up if you go to the stores. All of our UI that you see, which is a lot of UI that we have for Xamarin, it's all up there, and it's all in this app right here. So if I show you the data grid here, which is again one of the most popular controls because everybody needs a grid. It has CRUD, it has load on demand, virtualization, it's kind of built in, so you can take a look. But aggregate support, that's kind of new. So exactly the same experience, now it's for touch. So again, you can see how nicely the grouping and the aggregate function works out. So the data grid in Xamarin gets the same amount of love that we are putting into for .NET MAUI. So if you're doing Xamarin stuff, be at peace, you got time, but keep maintaining your Xamarin apps that are production ready for now. All right, lot more things to cover. Let's switch gears to desktop, and I think we might have you folks chime in a little bit before we switch to desktop as to what you might be doing here. Let's switch up here. Let's talk about desktop, and so many things to cover here for desktop because the world has really evolved.
Before we move on, Sam,
yeah,
when we're on Xamarin, or sorry, not Xamarin, but MAUI, a question from chat is accessing functions like fingerprint reader, camera, all of that. Are there any components that specifically deal with that, or are we relying on MAUI for that type of thing?
No, I mean, MAUI pretty much does it all. For the Xamarin land, we have had something called Xamarin Essentials, which was, a set of APIs. Now they moved it over to MAUI Essentials, and that name, I mean, it's become so important that it's not there anymore because, it's not a separate namespace. It's just built into MAUI. So all of the, 40, 50 plus APIs that are device specific, you have access to all of them from MAUI itself. So yeah, I mean, in future we might come up with your newer UI components which use some of those APIs, but there is nothing stopping you from using those APIs right now.
And of course, we're open to feedback as well. If you have anything specific that you were thinking of that you don't find in MAUI Essentials, and maybe not our library as well, make sure you drop that in feedback.telerik.com.
Absolutely. All right, I got half an hour to talk about desktop, right? Before we do though, quick question for you. You may have heard us talk about this, but Blazor hybrid apps is a thing. It's maybe relatively new, but it is utilizing the new web view component in MAUI to render all of the web stuff, and all of Blazor, and in a way all of Angular, React, and jQuery, all web stuff just works. So if you are looking to work on a desktop app, and especially if you wanted to kind of go a little cross-platform, what are your options? Are you looking to do WinForms or WPF first? Or are you leaning towards bringing in some modern things with .NET MAUI and Blazor Hybrid? So is this something you are interested in? Are you looking at it? Because I mean, we can say that our stuff works, but if you are interested, we would love to do more around this. So are you looking at building cross-platform apps? Do you already have it working? You're considering it, or not quite in your plans yet, and that's fine too. All right, going once and twice, and let's see your responses. Okay, not in your plans, perfectly fine. But 31% of you are considering it, which is interesting because I will talk about this a whole lot more. But WinForms, WPF, they're fine, right? They work on the latest .NETs. But if you want to maybe bring in a little bit of modernness in your existing Windows desktop apps, this may be a way to bring in some Blazor goodness, to bring in a little bit of .NET MAUI inside of your WinForms and WPF apps. So that's good to know that some of you are considering it, but again, for those of you who are not, you're perfectly fine as well. So this is the latest Windows desktop stack. This is the latest UI and UX stack, Windows UI, WinUI 3, and all of the Windows App SDK. It's really nice because it kind of lets us tap into the latest in Windows land and all of the developer tools and all of the UI that kind of goes along with it. We have in fact borrowed a lot from this as well. Like Windows Community Toolkit was a thing, and now it's essentially a .NET Community Toolkit. .NET MAUI reaches Windows through WinUI, so it is critically important that the Windows stack is well done. And we kind of have been riding this wave really well. It is the most modern Windows desktop suite that you're going to find from us, both for Windows UWP apps as well as for Win32 apps, extensive familiar APIs. We are at version 2.2.0 for Telerik UI for WinUI. Runs on the latest and greatest things, has all the things that you expect, MVVM support, Fluent design, which is kind of, the center stone of modern Windows apps, and everything just works exactly the way you want. You want, heavy hitting enterprise UI, you have it ready from Telerik UI for WinUI. All of your grids, your list views, your schedulers, your charts, maps and graphs, and different types of gauges, you have it all. And document processing libraries are built in. So it's really, really nice how far we have come with Telerik UI for WinUI. We have a couple of new things here though. There's a new property grid, which is beautiful control. What it does is tries to look into an object or an item, could be a UI item, could be just a C# object, and it tries to visualize what the properties are and then give you a rendering of what those visualizations are. And you can change it if you wanted to, but it has those built-in editors. You can bind it to just about any item with a single line of code, and then we can look through what are the things that you have in your object or your UI. Is it brushes, or is it strings, or is it data components, is it drop downs? And we rendered the corresponding things with full keyboard support, with grouping and filtering and all the things. So it's a really nice way to visualize all of the properties of a given object or a line item. So we actually use it in a couple of different places. So we have a few new ways for you to render a collection of things, because as it turns out, most desktop or mobile apps end up rendering a collection of things. So this is a new way for you to render some of those collections. Again, nothing's taking away from your grids or list views or other types of collection controls. This is yet another way. So if you want to have just a simple collection of things that you want to show, and the user to be able to tap on one and be able to quickly edit that, the collection editor is beautiful for that, because it actually uses the property grid inside of it, so it can reflect. It can figure out what those properties are for each given selection, and just show your user a nice way to kind of edit those on the fly. And you can customize it to your heart's content. There is a new collection navigator as well. So if you're showing a lot of different items in your collection, it's an easy way for you to go to the next or last. Or the first. You can add new items to your collection, or edit an existing one, or delete one. So just a real nice and nifty way to show or work with any collection items. We do have improvements all across the document processing libraries. They are now very much inbuilt with WinUI. The data grid gets full-on export functionality across variety of formats, and you can do it synchronously or asynchronously. And you can while like what Ed was showing you can modify what you are exporting out even on the fly, because this is all being done in memory before you throw out the PDF or Word. You can manipulate that to your heart's content. Windows 11 with some of the latest updates is getting some style improvements with Fluent. So some of our UI is already updated to the Windows 11 look and feel, especially the Windows 11 theme. If you're doing the ribbon view, which is one of our most beloved components, because you don't have a WinUI ribbon view in the WinUI component suite. So now you have a ribbon view from us that is aligning to the Office 365 user experience. So, it'll feel natural to anybody, coming to your Windows 11 themed app from Office 365. SideDrawer gets updates, and document processing updates. We'll mention some of these, but every one of our app suites get the document processing library updates kind of for free, which is really nice. Now, I want you all to take a step back and take in what we are saying in this slide here, right? So think about this. WinForms is probably, 20 years old? WPF is 15 years old. Those apps and those platforms are going strong. And it just blows my mind that we can run these things on so many dotnets. Like we talked about this .NET 4, if that's where you are at with .NET Framework, be there. You're going to be fine. You're part of Windows. But if you want to move forward to the more unified stacks, then we run on .NET Core. 3.1 was an LTS, then .NET 6 was an LTS. .NET 7 Preview 7 is the last certified thing that we can say for this release because we had a code freeze. But then, most of our stuff, already works on RC1, so you can totally assume that .NET 7 will be completely done and working by the time it comes out, and then ARM64 support. So really, this kind of makes me happy that we can take WinForms and WPF and just run it on every .NET. All right, so you should not feel any pressure to move. This is fine. This is great for you. And maybe if you want to bring in some of the modern UI, you have had XAML islands, maybe now you have Blazor. So bring in those little bits of modernness and light up your WPF or WinForms apps. So speaking of those two UI suites, let's go into WPF. This is Windows Presentation Foundation, really, really mature UI suite. Like, we talk about the ASP.NET side, like we have had like 160 plus controls in WPF and WinForms suite because they are so mature. But yet we find new ways of adding things to it. So this release, there's a new circular progress bar UI, kind of the classic look and feel that you see from so many web and desktop apps. It's, lets you track progress across a certain task or a goal. It's a popular UX. People know how to work with it. It can, be broken up into segments. You can control the radius. You can control the angle. You can customize it, however you want. You can actually also show a secondary progress indicator. So this is brand new as of our 3 release. We do have new visualizations all over. There's a brand new chart type. It's called the error bar, and essentially it lets you plot data points and then maybe see things within a min-max range, maybe plot some of the uncertainty that you might be seeing in some of the data. It kind of gets you a dot and then kind of 2 caps on the bottom and the top. The syntax editor, which is heavily used by a lot of our desktop customers because you want to show code. Maybe you want to show some legal stuff in your app. So now it has word wrapping, so you don't have to expand it. You can just wrap given a certain width. The pivot grid is very popular, and it always kind of went with something called the pivot field list, which is a list of all the things that you're plotting in the pivot grid, and then you had to bring that thing in and then be able to filter and sort and so on. Now you can do it inline, so it can actually be completely configurable without the pivot field list, and you have built-in ways to filter, modify, have a context menu, and so everything that the user needs is right in there inside of your pivot grid. So lots of visualization updates from WPF, and more things. We do have a ribbon view that gets an Office 365 styling update as well, kind of more in line with Windows 11. The rich text box, again, heavily used because you're trying to show HTML, you're trying to show something rich in your text editor, and now you have line numbering, kind of really handy for like code or medical documents, and it's a nice intuitive API. You can choose exactly how those line numbers show up. The spreadsheet view, which is kind of coming from document processing library, it can now repeat a certain row or a column on every printed page. So maybe you're printing a thing that's 50 pages long, but you want to show something on every column or every row. Now you can have it repeated. And all of the other document processing libraries, WPF just gets it. So WPF, I've actually always been particularly fond of how much stuff we put out. This is Colin, I think, who's on the call. The team puts out so much of sample code, and we do it for WinForms as well, but WPF, I'm particularly fond of it. So many apps that we have that are all out there. We give you the source code so you can see how we are doing an ERM app, how are we doing like an ERP app or a CRM or a true Outlook inspired mail application. You can get the source code of all of Telerik UI for WPF if you want, and the source code for all of these apps. They're all updated to the latest bits, running on .NET 7. So we give you bits that are for .NET 6, and we give you NuGet packages that are for .NET 7, if that's what you want to be. So a lot of flexibility here. Let's talk about WinForms, right? I have 18 minutes left. We should be good. WinForms gets plenty of love as well. So we have had a spreadsheet control, which is for you to show all types of Excel-like spreadsheets inside of your WinForms application. And now you have charts. So we are good with charts and graphs, if you can tell. Now we can render those charts and graphs inside of your RAD spreadsheet control. So it's a great way for you to look at the tabular data that you have with spreadsheets and be able to quickly visualize that data and just throw in a chart right inside of your spreadsheet. So it kind of is a great way to visualize things, lets you see trends or statistics that you might otherwise miss because you're just looking at rows and columns of data. It's very easy to add or manipulate those charts, and there are quite a few charts available, so you can really customize the look and feel of it. So this took a lot of engineering, but now you have charts built inside of spreadsheets, which is wonderful. We do have a lot more UI. Again, WinForms, think about how much UI love has been poured into this suite for the last 20 years now, and we still come up with newer ways because we are trying to cater to newer user experiences. People have different expectations when they use a desktop app today, especially with MAUI, especially with WinForms and WPF being so rich. There are new user experiences that people look for. So if you're doing anything that's intensive, maybe taking a little bit longer, now you have a splash screen as your app is starting up. You can customize this to your heart's content, so the image and what goes in it, what type of animations, and how you kind of get rid of the splash screen and bring out your content. All of it is customizable, but it's a splash screen, so it's there for you to use while your app is coming up. And then once your app is up and running, if you're doing something intensive, then there are overlays. So you can kind of dim out the rest of the content. You can tell the user that, hey, I'm about to do something here, I'm pulling data here, I'm doing a refresh. Or you can also use that same concept for a flyout. So maybe you're doing something where the user has to enter something really quick, or it's like a wizard that they're stepping through. So it's a little dialogue that comes up on top of your app that lets you, ask for user input. So you can use those things as and when required from your WPF or your WinForms apps here. And document processing updates, again, like I said, every app suite gets it. So I think we should actually talk about this. So this is what Ed has been referring to. So I think I want to say like 5, 6 years back, we have started doing this, but we realized that no matter what type of app you are writing, web, desktop, and mobile, you end up as an enterprise workflow working with documents. So we have tried to lift and shift all of those out of the individual app platforms and making them a .NET standard library. Now it's just a .NET library that works on .NET 6 and 7 and 8 going forward. But the benefit is what we do here benefits everything. So you can do this from ASP.NET Ajax and MVC and Blazor and MAUI and Xamarin and WinUI and WPF. It's there everywhere, right? So document processing is something we are very proud of because we know how much enterprise apps need it. So lots of love in there as well. PDF processing, if you're new, we are now letting you export your PDF pages out as images, which is really nice because we do all of the work for you. Keep it full fidelity, and we're using C# to kind of render those pixels, so you don't have to take on any dependency on Windows or Mac or web. We will do it for you. Word processing, it gets page numbering, and we can also work a little bit better with shapes if you're doing imports and exports out of Word. Spread processing, we can now import older XLX files or CSV files, which are huge files that are all data. We can import and digest it all and let you have a spreadsheet, and we can repeat specific rows and columns, which I had mentioned. So these updates, it's no point repeating them for every suite because you have it across all of what we do. All right, 13 minutes left toward the top of the hour. Let's take a look at some stuff here if I can show you. Let's see. There's my Windows box up and ready for me. So let's look at WinUI here real quick. And I'm showing you WinUI running here as a part of like a desktop setup, but you can also run this as UWP. All right, I don't think I need it to be that big. So give me a second. I'm going to lower the resolution a little bit here because it's way too big for me. There we go. All right, so let's look at, let's see if I can minimize that. There we go. So here is WinUI. right? And all of the components that we have for WinUI, they're all right there. This is kind of a classic sample app, and I can show you the code base, but we also render the code right inside of the app, so you can see exactly how we are rendering something. Everything that we do is all out there. You get it as a part of the install, so you can look through all of this code inside of Visual Studio. You can open up the app and launch it locally. And let's take a look at some of the things that were new and added. So collection editor. No, in fact, actually, let's begin with the property editor first. So you'll kind of see it in action. So here's the property grid, right? So you point it to any object, be it data or be it a UI element. In this case, it's a button, and we can inspect and give you all the properties that we see on that object. So they can be nicely grouped, they can be sorted, and you can search for specific properties. So here I'm dealing with a button here, so I can change up the background color. You can see the button kind of changing the color. So anything that we see on a given property, we can bring it out, and it's really nice. So if I go back here, you can configure this. You can have this as a part of a data grid. But one of the best use cases is kind of looking through a collection editor. So envision you presenting to the user a list of things, and you don't want them to tap away from a data grid and do a whole other screen. You just want a quick edit of those items in the collection right there. So that's what you're looking at. This is a list of things, and for each of those items, I can tap on them, and I can see the property grid come up right next to me. So it's a quick way for me to, edit something, add something, or, take something away. It's really nice. And then the collection navigator here is when you have a ton of data that you're trying to show, you want to go next, or you want to go, jump to the last one or come back to the first one. You can do all of that. Let's see, my camera is up. It still just did a little blink. So you can add new things, you can delete. So again, the point is, if you want your users to have a quick way of editing something, throw in the property grid. It can reflect, and you don't have to build up the UI. It just knows how to show you that collection right away. In here are also, let me show you something new. No, not right now. We're good. What else here? We can show you the dock panel. The dock panel, again, it's a way for you to kind of dock things left and right, and how you want to position your content on a view. That's really nice. Let's talk about some of the document processing libraries that are kind of kicking into WinUI. And again, you get this from WPF and WinForms as well. Export to an image here. So I'll take a true PDF here, and I can do this on web or mobile as well, and I can save it off as an image, right? And what it does is it's trying to save it here to my desktop. I will save that here. And what comes out of it is a true high fidelity export of your PDF file into an image editor. So that's now an image, full fidelity PDF inside of an image. You have it now. If that's what your users demand, you can do it very easily now. The PDF viewer is updated, so now you can do digitally signing of documents. You can password protect your documents. The spread stream processing also gets an import from CSV files. So lots and lots of things that we have done. Word processing gets numbering of fields inside of a word. So all of this UI is right there and ready for you to kind of explore and look around and see what we can do for you on WinUI. Let's switch gears here a little bit. I'm not sure why Spotify is trying to run here. We'll kill that, and let's look at WPF. And again, these are apps that are also in the Microsoft store. So you don't have to install anything. Just pull up your Windows machine, go to the store, search for it, and that's what you'll find. You'll notice that I'm running R3 2022, so the latest bits here. Here's the circular progress bar, and it's just a beautiful experience. Like you are trying to plan a trip to Maldives, and it's expensive. So every month you save up a little bit, and that circle gets complete. Kind of like the rings on your your sports or Apple watches. You're closing a ring. You're trying to show some progress in a circular way. Classic UX that everybody gets. And there are a lot more things you can do. You can configure. You can notice how many things you can configure: the value, the diameter, the segments, the angles, the strokes, everything is configurable so that you can show progress to your users. Let's see, the syntax editor. This is the one that a lot of you use to show code or show documents in screen, and you can see how many different types of themes we have. You can change around the themes. If I do Windows 11, things get a little bit more roundish and nice, and I can go dark theme. So you can do all of this, but now let me show you the word wrap. So now you can kind of restrict the user to a certain width, and everything just kind of wraps nicely. So you don't have to, worry about how it's going to look like. It's a fixed width, and you can, word wrap really nicely. What else? Everything else that is, spreadsheet, PDF viewer, PDF exports, they all get the same exact, things that I showed you from WinUI, because it's powered by the same document processing libraries, which is really nice. And then the last thing, but not the least thing here, is WinForms. So let me show you the WinForms demo. And again, you can run these demos as a part of, an app that you get from the Windows or Microsoft Store, or you can just, head out to Telerik.com and we'll show you those demos. You can install just that demo on your machine, or if you are up for, installing the whole UI library, then you have the bits as well as the demos that kind of go with it. All right, so this is the WinForms app that's running here. Let's show you the splash screen. So envision your app is coming up and you are pulling news or something that's very heavy. Excuse me. So you don't want the user to just wait and look at. I mean, the skeleton thing is nice, but when your app is launching for the first time, maybe you want a real splash screen like this, and you can configure everything about the splash screen. I think. Excuse me. So these are some things about the splash screen you can configure. You can update the image, the loading, the indicator, and the progress state can be deterministic or indeterminate. So you don't know exactly how much you're done. So this splash screen is there as your app is kind of launching up. Then we have the flyouts, and these are really nice because they can be used to show that your app is doing something, or you can also be interactive. So here's a an overlay where the whole app the surface area kind of dims, and you're trying to show the user that you're doing something, right? And I can do this again. You can see that it dims. You're trying to show some progress, and what you show is entirely up to you. Then you can have a flyout, which is display the solid content over that. So this is something that you show on top of that, or you can I think it plays for like a couple of seconds here, and all right, hold on, it's not going away. All right, we'll launch it again. Oh, it came back, but I clicked on the close too soon. We'll launch it again because the flyout thing is nice when you let's go to flyouts here. When you have to be a little interactive here, this one's the interactive form. So you can dim out the rest of the UI and you can just ask for something to the user. And again, what you fill up here is up to you, but that's a quick and easy way to show something where the user has to respond to something, and you can dim out the rest of the UI and just have them focus on a mobile window that does something. So splash screens are done and flyouts are now done. So you can, anytime your app is doing something a little bit busy, you can, have it nicely showed to the user. And again, a lot of the same things that you expect from the document processing libraries, they are right there as well. So it's the same exact demos for spreadsheets, PDF processing, word processing, they're all there. So you can play around with it however you want on whichever stack you want. It's powered by the same libraries. And this one is actually showing you the charts. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. So you can see that I have charts right inside of my spreadsheet, which is so nice. And I can choose multiple things here. Let's just do that, and then I can go to insert and say, give me a chart, right? So that way I can look at just the data elements that I've picked, and do I want a bar chart or do I want different types of charts? It's all there. Line charts are there. So are different types of markers. You want a pie chart? You got it here. You got a bar chart. You got an area chart. You got an XY scatter chart. All of that, all of the charting that we know and do so well for WinForms, it's now right there inside of your spreadsheet control. So this takes a lot of engineering, but we are proud to kind of bring it to you because it's part of parcel of what you do inside of your spreadsheets. And this is just honestly a great way to visualize your content, so you're not just looking at tabular data. So all of that is now ready for use inside of your WinForms application. All right, I think we are almost at time here, so I'm going to go back and pull up some last minute thoughts here. And Ed, any questions we can answer?
So I don't have any specific questions to the UI components here that we're covering in desktop, but we are having quite the discussion. We've got a very tech savvy audience today.
All right.
We've been talking IoT and integration with scanner equipment, all sorts of great stuff in the back channel. So doing a fantastic job there, Sam. We're just kind of getting into the sticks on some stuff here. It's been fun.
Yeah, and I mean, there's just, the world is our oyster, right? There's so many things we can do with edge computing, with IoT, but anywhere your user meets your app, you need UI, and that's where we kind of come in, especially for the Telerik and Kendo UI side of the family, which is all about UI. But I mean, we do a lot of things around the cloud, around rules engines, you name it, network tracing and reporting and testing. We do it all, but it's always fun to see what people are building with our UI.
Absolutely.
All right, so folks, we are almost at time here. I think 1 minute left here as per my clock. We want to thank you for spending 2 hours of your day with me and with Ed and with all of our folks who are in the back channels answering as many of your questions as they can. So thank you, big thank you to them. If you had to run, not a problem. We have had all of this being recorded, and we will put this up on YouTube as soon as we can. But you can find Ed and me pretty much online and anywhere. The normal suspects of Twitter and GitHub and Skype, and we do stream quite a bit. So if you are up for it, you want to see us kind of uncharted, not with button-up shirts and just maybe failing a lot with our code, come and hang out with us at Twitch on Code It Live. We do try to push the barriers of what's possible with maybe some Blazor hybrid stuff and maybe some some bleeding edge stuff that even we are experimenting with. But every release, we try to bring you all of this goodness across Telerik, across Kendo UI, across Fiddler and Test Studio, so you all can be more successful. So we hope you see how much love and effort has gone into R3 2022 release, and we thank you for using our bits, and we hope that you continue to be successful. And yeah, just thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
It's been great chatting with you folks today. Take care.
All right, folks. Thank you.